This chair is here because this is a subject that makes me remember to sit down inside when I speak to you about it. This subject of the soul is so complicated and so difficult to separate out from spirit and body, but I'm attempting to do that today. And because I feel I'm in complicated territory, even controversial territory, this seat on the platform, when I look at it when I'm stood over there, this seat reminds me to calm down, don't come across like this, because this subject, if any I've ever studied, has really kicked my butt. I like to nail a subject and have it down to deliver to you, but this subject has constantly said to me, when I finished studying it and got up from my desk after hours and walked away, another idea comes that makes what I just studied almost, out of date immediately. The soul, this area that we're dealing with today, is kind of like that. So this is my ego-controlling chair. I'm going to speak to you today about the ego because I think it's a huge part of understanding the soul. This chair reminds me to be calm, to sit down. When I sit down in this chair, it should make you sit down on the inside. So we all are constantly assuming this seat of a learner rather than I'm the expert up here and you're the learner. I'm up here teaching you things, but I'm learning all the time as I'm teaching from you guys. So though I'm up here, in my heart, I'm sat down there in the middle of you, chatting to you, okay? That's how I want this tone of this to be. So let me start by saying that this idea came to me in recent years because I do think the whole world is entering a new age. We're entering a new age. I don't want to exaggerate to you that in case you are unaware of it or you feel it's something speakers say a lot and we do it for dramatic effect, because I'm not one of those communicators, as you know about me, any of you, that I would err, if anything, towards the more understating of something. I don't like the tendency we have to ramp something up, and social media does that hugely. So before I put this on the media to speak to you about, I thought, is this really the dawning of a new age across the world? For 20 years now, I have been looking at trends in myself, in humans all across the planet, more so since I've traveled, to be able to say to you, I think something massive is happening in the world. There are many interpretations of it, but at least I have to take from it, it's all saying to me, shouting to us in the church, and the church are often the last to get the memo about global shifts. Then we start playing catch up. And so I want to be ahead of the curve with us all to say that I think we're entering a new age. Now, from the beginning of mankind on the planet to now, the time is debatable as to how long that has been. 3 ages got us to here. For thousands of years, human beings lived in the agricultural age, then the industrial age, then the information age are the 3 primary ages we have traveled through to get here. Of course, I'm including in the agricultural age the Iron Age and the Stone Age and the Bronze Age, but primarily they were inside and contributing to the agricultural age, getting better to farm by the introduction, the invention, the discovery of stone and metal and so on. The information age that brought us to here is still here around the world, and we're about to step into AI. And AI will be the next expression of the information age, and I already think the last ever driver's license holder has been born. Your children will never need to learn to drive, or maybe not in Jakarta. just occurred to me that maybe Jakarta will be the exception on the planet. Huh. But I don't think my grandchildren even will need to drive. I was in a Tesla in America recently, and the driver took his hands off the wheel and let the car take over. It is counterintuitive to sit there next to someone chatting to you while the car's going that way. It's like a movie. It's like science fiction to my generation. I was speaking to people that are quite senior in Uber. And in Los Angeles, when I was in America last time, Uber had a convention where they were speaking about pioneering pilotless helicopters. Who's going to get in one of those? So we're living in an age where AI is going to take the information age to the next level. But you all know this, that despite what I just said to you, despite we're living in a world that is more technologically advanced, more medically advanced, more connected than ever, we are the sickest, most depressed, suicidal, hopeless, despairing generation ever. So something's missing, something's happening, something's going on. It's beginning to fragment at the edges. The information age got us to where we are, and we'll always have a part, of course, in our future. But the world, it started to break down, and the fault lines, like the San Andreas Fault in California, the hairline cracks are appearing all across the globe, and people are starting to say, what is it that's going on? How come we are so advanced, and yet we are so desperately needy of things that the advancement do not speak to? And I think my version of this coming age is called the age of human flourishing. That's my name for what's coming next. Others will call it other things that are variations of that. I've been using this language now for about 6 or 7 years, this language of human flourishing. And so my description for what's coming next is the age of human flourishing. Any business, any government, any charity, any church, any education system that is involved in the assistance of human flourishing, the future belongs to those organizations. Anyone that understands, whether you're a personal startup, an entrepreneur, whatever vocation and calling you have, if you will go into it with a mind and a question for, how will this help people flourish as a human? Not how can I just sell more stuff, but how will what I'm selling become a service to enhance human flourishing? Any organizations involved with this at their core, the future belongs to them, including the church. And sadly, in Europe, in the church, we have not helped humans flourish. And so I'm concerned because my first love is the church, but I've realized as I age, my first love is not the church. My first love are human beings, which was Jesus's love. He died on the cross for humanity, not for Christianity. And if Christianity becomes some alternate form of humanity, I think God feels that we are also missing and not interfacing with this new age that's coming, the age of human flourishing. So I want to be part of assisting you and assisting the world to flourish, to thrive, to get out you, to become the best version of you you could possibly be throughout your lifetime, assisting you in flourishing and thriving as a human. This to me is so big. It is like, to me, the 17th century age of the Enlightenment. The age of Enlightenment, if you study any European history at all, and why should you, but perhaps you did, in the 17th century in Europe, particularly in England and France, with people like Sir Isaac Newton, and Sir Francis Bacon and John Locke and Voltaire, who was a French counterpart of some of those English names I mentioned, around these thinkers that were astrologers and scientists and teachers and lecturers and writers and authors, gathered around these thinkers came this idea, certainly from Sir Isaac Newton, one of the most famous scientists of all time, who discovered the law of gravity. And he realized in his study of the universe that the universe operates all by itself perfectly without any human interaction, intervention, interference, or dependency. And asked himself, why is it that we humans can't be left to do that ourselves, knowing that people were controlled by an aristocracy, royalty and aristocracy? The class system in Europe was royalty, aristocracy, then a massive gap, no middle classes, no educated middle classes, a massive gap that dropped right down to the poor, to the peasants, to the servants, a massive gap. And this discovery by the educated elite made it aware to people like us that we don't need to be told what to do and how to live and how to think. That we ourselves want to be able to learn to read and have self-determination and be able to self-improve and be able to choose different vocations for our lives and be able to learn different languages and study different cultures and access the arts and the sciences. So the Enlightenment was about a major awakening. This new age of human flourishing is about an awakening of human consciousness to something happening in this planet, on this planet, that is crying out for our attention, our involvement, and our partnership with it. And so the age of enlightenment became a massive grassroots awakening of consciousness that gave people this sense of, I am and I can be in charge of my own life. I don't need to lock myself in generationally to what my ancestors have always done, which is play small, live inside other people's permissions for my life. This became so drastic in Europe that 100 years later or so, it led to the French Revolution, where the heads of those that did not listen rolled. And the heads of those that are not listening now, by the way, are rolling all around the world. That's where Donald Trump came from. Seriously. Because millions of Americans were sick and tired of career politicians overpromising and under-delivering because their promises were election-based campaign promises. When they got into office, they now didn't follow through on their promises, and so America decided we can be no worse off with a crazy person, which is what a lot of Americans feel, and others. We can be no worse off with a business leader, because at least he understands working for a living. He understands trade and selling and buying. He understands loss. He's gone through 3 bankruptcies in his career. He understands loss and recovery. He understands employment and workers' rights. He knows how to make a good deal. So Americans thought, despite all the other things that are his weaknesses, we are no worse off with him. So no one saw it coming. All the career politicians didn't see it coming. He was in their blind spot. And so Donald Trump represents a world that is sick and tired of being told how to live and being told things will get better, and they never do. This revolution, therefore, continues. Brexit is another British revolution. We are revolting against the idea of being controlled by nameless, faceless bureaucrats in Belgium that don't care about our country and are costing us billions and billions of pounds every year to be in the club. And we never voted to go in. We were taken in by politicians that never asked us. Then when we got a vote a few years ago, we said, we're out of there. And what shocked David Cameron is that when people got a voice outside of the bubble of London, there's more people in England than London, you know. All around the world, people say, where do you live in England? I live in Bradford, you know, near Leeds. They said to me, oh, is that near London? No. So millions of us up north, the working class, coal mining, you know, e-by-gum, trouble at mill, ordinary people, voted, get us out of that control, that bureaucratic idea, and it's now cost 2 prime ministers their jobs. Brexit has cost 2 prime ministers their jobs. It's called people power. And it's coming back all around the world. People are taking power because they're understanding, from my point of view, this is an age of enlightenment. This is an age where we're waking up to a consciousness that we don't need to live anymore with business as usual default modes in our lives, our health, our relationships, our work, our family, our healthcare, our governments, and so on and so on. We are going to revolt in our own ways. And so this Soul Prosperity Seminar is my attempt to speak to you about living from the inside out, about living from your core identity, about living from your heart and your soul, not your ego, about living from empathy and not judgment. These would be some of the characteristics of this age of human flourishing traits. The soul prosperity that I want you to have means I want you to live much more from the inside out, because we have lived too much in our Western-based societies. We live too much from the outside in. So we are taking our body to the gym every day to look beautiful on the social media post, not knowing our soul is toxic. Our soul is carrying regret and bitterness and judgment and resentment and fear and anger, but we look great on the selfie. Because we're living in an outside-in, external-based world, this new age, this age of human flourishing is going to be living from the inside out. That you're going to realize you were born with everything you need to become a brilliant human being you had from birth. And I'm going to show you from before birth. Living from the core identity. Living from heart and soul, not ego. Living from empathy and not judgment. So